What's up everybody, this is Master EN Gamer, and we just got a big update for Overwatch 2, where we got an in-depth look at two new reworks, being the one for Bastion and Sombra, both of which are pretty intense. So in this video, I'm going to be going in depth with these reworks, explaining all the new things that have changed with these individual heroes, and talking a bit about how this is going to impact them as heroes in Overwatch 2, and what we might expect from them going forward. Real quick first though, I would like to remind you to subscribe and hit up that bell icon to never miss out on any future Overwatch and Overwatch 2 news and content. But now, let's delve right into the reworks. So first up, let's talk about Bastion, since Bastion by far got the more interesting and extreme of these two reworks. Basically, his entire kit has been changed in one way or another. First of all, they removed his self-healing. He doesn't have it at all now. They didn't reduce it, they didn't switch it up, just flat out, Bastion cannot heal himself anymore. Instead though, he has a new alternate fire ability, which fires a bouncing sticky ball that explodes. This is a very bizarre sort of change for them to give him, as it's straight up just a new ability they've tacked onto his kit, and it appears to essentially just be a hybrid of Sigma's primary fire and Echo's sticky bombs. It's like a weird mix of the two because it bounces off of map terrain but sticks to heroes, and then of course it explodes and has a bunch of splash damage. Overall, a very interesting new ability, and definitely one which I'm excited to see it play out in-game. But on a similar note, there were also some changes to his primary fire, which is that they slowed down its firing speed, but eliminated any spread whatsoever. So basically, it's like a pseudo-sniper gun, you could maybe say, in that it's easy to hit long-distance targets, but it's probably not going to be dealing as much damage anymore because it doesn't fire as quickly. Basically, it seems this is just an effective alternative for being able to deal damage to farther away targets. Getting on now to the really juicy parts of this rework though, we have his brand new ultimate ability, which is a mortar artillery strike. Now, I think the footage here does a better explanation of how this new ability actually works compared to me explaining it, but as you can see here, activating the ultimate sends you into a top-down sort of perspective, very similar to Doomfist's Meteor Strike ultimate, which allows you to fire 3 individual shots that are then fired up into the air by Bastion in his artillery form, and they come crashing down and deal massive damage. Now, lead hero designer Jeff Goodman actually gave us numbers for just how much damage this ability does, which is 300 damage for impact, meaning you got hit by the artillery shot, plus 300 splash damage from the explosion, thus dealing a potential total damage of 600 damage to an individual target. Now, of course, the projectile itself is fairly small, so it's probably going to be very uncommon for you to actually hit someone directly. And the splash damage does have fall off, so overall it's probably not going to be as strong in actuality as it sounds on paper here with these numbers, but nonetheless this sounds like a very exciting new ability for him. Another thing to note is that he does have a window of time where he can sort of delay firing the shots, similar to how Torbjorn doesn't have to fire out all of his molten core at once, so that Bastion can just sort of fire up one shot, maybe wait a second to see how people react to it before firing up his second, and then he still has the third, which maybe he fires again right away or will hold on to as well. Another thing to note though about these artillery strikes is that they are in fact projectiles, which means as they come firing down, they can be blocked by things like a Reinhardt barrier, deflected by Genji, or eaten by D.Va using her defense matrix. Overall, that seems to be a way to add more counterplay to this ultimate, which does sound very strong on paper once again, and I am very, very excited to see how this ends up playing out in-game. Lastly for Bastion though, he has a very nice little buff to his Sentry form, which is that he can now move while firing his minigun. That's right, they just changed it so now when he's in Sentry form, he's on his old tank tracks, and he can just move around, firing his minigun. Minigun on wheels. A nightmare I'm sure no Overwatch player wants to see. But thankfully, it does sound like they've made some nerfs to it, in that he can only remain in Sentry form for a limited amount of time. It seems that they've shifted this ability from rather being a transformation into a different mode. It's more of a used ability where it has its duration and then is probably going to have a cooldown after the fact, thus limiting how much he can actually use his super powerful minigun. Overall, needless to say, I am incredibly excited to actually play this new Bastion at some point in time, and I am definitely excited to see how he ends up working in different team comps in Overwatch 2. But now let's move on to Sombra, who also had a very interesting rework, though admittedly not quite as intense as Bastion's. So the majority of Sombra's rework revolves around her hack ability, and for starters, the hack cooldown was reduced and duration increased to 8 seconds. This means that hack is going to be much more prominent, it's something she can use much more frequently, but the actual effects of hack have been changed pretty significantly. First and foremost, it now only disables abilities for the first second of the hack's duration, as opposed to the entire duration of the ability. This means that it seems to now be more effective as a way of interrupting an ability that another hero is actively using, as opposed to preventing an enemy hero from being able to use abilities for a period of time. So for example, you could use it to interrupt a Reinhardt charge, or Reaper ultimate, different channeled abilities like that, as opposed to hacking Wrecking Ball and preventing him from using his ball form for 6 seconds. Instead, in that scenario, he'd only be locked out of rolling mode for 1 second. So a pretty substantial change in that regard for sure, but there are some nice little buffs added to hack as well to help offset this. First and foremost, hacked enemies can now be seen by your entire team through walls, thus making it much easier to locate these hacked targets, and additionally, Sombra herself deals additional damage to targets who are hacked, thus making it better for her to hack a key target she wants to eliminate, and then opening fire to deal extra damage. But perhaps the biggest buff they've given to the ability is that she can now hack while in stealth. She does show up briefly, as we can see here, for just a brief period of time while performing the hack, but it doesn't break the hack ability, and thus she can just stay concealed and run off and hide as soon as she's hacked a target. This should make it much easier for her to remain sneaky while doing damage to the enemy team. Well, not really damage, but hindering them by hacking them, and being able to just stay more elusive without being stuck outside of stealth every time you want to hinder a target. Now, in addition to her changes to hack, there were also some changes to her ultimate EMP as well. First and foremost, it now evidently doesn't remove all types of shields, but now rather damages heroes for 40% of their current health at the time of the hack. So to clarify, Sigma's ultimate deals 50% of a hero's max damage when they slam down into the ground, thus potentially killing them if they had less than half health at the start of the ultimate, whereas Sombra's ultimate only deals 40% of their current health. So if a 200 health hero is at full health, it's going to do more damage to them than if they were at half health. This seemingly makes EMP a very good initiation ultimate, as you're going to want to hit targets before they start dealing damage, so that they'll take more damage from EMP specifically than if they were already hurt pretty severely when getting hit by it. Overall, I have to say, I think this is a very, very interesting direction for them to take Sombra, and honestly, a lot like Bastion's, I'm very excited to see how it ends up playing out. Admittedly, before I actually saw these reworks, I was a bit skeptical about how Blizzard was going to be handling these two heroes, given how controversial they have been historically over the years. But honestly, I'm really impressed with these new versions they've shown off for them, and I am very excited to get to play them in-game. Will they end up being broken in some way or another once we actually end up playing Overwatch 2? Maybe, but honestly at this point I am very optimistic for these changes, and I think at the very least they're an interesting new direction for them to take these heroes. Definitely let me know your thoughts about these new reworks though in the comments down below, and otherwise thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe, follow me on Twitter, hit up that bell icon, and come join my Discord server to never miss out on any future Overwatch and Overwatch 2 news and content. Special thanks to my YouTube channel members who help make these videos possible, and if you'd like to join them to earn some cool rewards, then just hit that join button down below. Otherwise, this is Master EN Gamer signing off, and until next time, have a great day.